What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another week of Quarantine Kitchen. As you know, my name is Kyle Wilson, and this is what I do. In this time of quarantine, we're just having fun doing some good old cooking. Now, we did happen to get out last week, and one thing I went and did with my family is we drove on over to Edom, Texas, and we were able to find a pick-your-own blueberry farm. And I'll tell you what, it's a really cool tradition that we've done over the last 3 years now to be able to take our kids out and show them where food actually comes from. So that's why for today, I've actually chosen to show you my favorite blueberry scone recipe. You could really substitute any berry. Blueberry just happens to be my personal favorite. So let's go ahead, let's get started, and I'll show you the best blueberry scones you've ever made. Let's go. All right, let's start with the ingredients list. As you can see, not a lot going on here. It's overall pretty much a simple recipe. It really comes down to technique. Make sure to check out in the comments below on the full recipe at the end of this video. Probably one of the more unique things you're going to use during this video is a box grater. What you'll do is take your butter, put it in the freezer for at least 30 minutes before you're going to go through this process. But grating the butter like this will really save you a lot of headache of wondering if you have worked the butter into the flour to give that really nice flaky texture. So as you can see, it's really not too hard. If the butter is really frozen, take it, lay it out on a piece of wax paper, back into the freezer until you're ready to bring it back out. Into a bowl goes your sour cream, your whole milk. Whisk that all together. Then your dry ingredients. In goes the flour, baking soda and baking powder, salt, sugar, lemon zest, and just stir to combine. Now this is where the ease of grating that butter comes in. Take it straight out of the freezer, right into your flour, and it's really just about tossing it together at this point. There doesn't need to be a whole lot of kneading going on. And by allowing it to just lightly coat those butter pieces with the flour, you're going to create the most buttery, flaky scones you've ever had. In goes that sour cream and milk mixture. And as you can see, I'm just using a bench scraper there to pull things together. You do not want to work this dough very much. Much like a pie dough, you want to keep the gluten formation down to a very, very minimum. So just a very lightly floured surface. You can see the dough is still very, very crumbly, and that is exactly what you want. You do not want to overwork this dough at all. From here, it really is coming down to the size, and you're going to roll this thing out to a 12 by 12 rectangle. And if you look closely, you can really see all those flakes of butter. Now, if at any point those flakes turn into bigger streaks or it starts to melt on you, please put this back into the refrigerator or the freezer to allow things to firm back up, and then bring it back out to work with. It just so happens that the room I was working in today was very, very cool. So things did not melt quickly at all for me. Once you have your 12 by 12, we're going to fold that hot dog style, if you will, into thirds. And then hamburger back into thirds again to create a 4 by 4 rectangle. Into the freezer this will go for about 15 minutes to allow that to firm up. Right back out, and we're going to do the same exact thing here. Like I said, this is almost like a laminated dough that we're making here, so we're building those flaky layers as we go. And each time you are able to fold it over, you're just creating more and more layers over and over again. So back to a 12 by 12. And on go our blueberries. Now these happen to be frozen blueberries. We did pick them fresh, but we went ahead and put them into the freezer for about 15 minutes, allowed them to firm up. This is really going to allow you to press them into the dough without squishing them. And now it's all about taking it from one end and just gently rolling it up. If it happens to stick a little bit, just use your bench scraper, get right up underneath it, and just roll as you go. By all means, if you need a little bit of extra flour to keep it from sticking, use what you need, but do not use more than what you need. Now that you have your perfect little cylinder there, we're going to pat it out just a little bit. Now instead of a 12 by 12, we'll be looking for a 12 by 4. So 12 inches by 4 inches. Try to keep it as rectangle as possible, because this ultimately is what's going to create the shape for your scones. Once you have that 12 by 4, you're going to cut it into 4 sections and then in half on bias from there. Onto a parchment paper lined baking tray. Topping it with a little bit of melted butter and some castor sugar if you have some. If not, regular granulated sugar will work as well. And from there, it's just straight into the oven that we have preset at 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and these are going to go for 18 to 25 minutes. Now, if you did decide to freeze some of these, lower the heat to 375 degrees Fahrenheit when you pull them out, and extend the cooking time to 25 to 30 minutes. And that is the end result, the perfect, buttery, crusty, flaky blueberry scones. I personally like mine with just a little bit of fresh homemade yogurt, or if you had some clotted cream, that would be really good as well. Don't those look good? I'll tell you what, it really comes down to just those nice little flaky layers. It's almost like a laminated dough. You have to keep things cold though, so that's the number one thing. You're gonna keep it nice and cold along the process. Make sure that you're being very gentle with that really delicate dough. Just like a pie crust, you wanna build those flaky layers, right? You don't wanna make it tough. So the least amount that you can work it, and then also the least amount of flour that you can add to it. So I hope you guys were able to learn some tips and tricks on how to make your best possible scone that you can make. I really hope that you go out and try this. I promise you, it is the go-to you want to keep in your freezer at any given time. And then any given morning you wake up and you want something, bam, 20-30 minutes later you can have perfect buttery crispy scones. Thanks again for joining me, guys. Once again, as always, like and subscribe. That's what really helps continue to drive this channel. It's not only cooking with my family, but being able to share it with you guys as well. We'll see you again next week.